All right, so yeah, I'm Nick Arnold. I started TRL with Mike Hauser back in like 2017, I believe. Yeah, the end of 2017. I graduated from University of Maryland in 2018. I graduated with comm, so I was a social influence major, um, and that has literally nothing to do with what I do now. And I think part of my focus for talking to you guys today is going to be kind of explaining how sometimes you're in TRL or you're into music or you want to work in the industry and you think that there's like kind of this clear cut path, or maybe you think that there's not a clear cut path, but you know what you want to do. You want to be an audio engineer. You want to work for a label. You want to do marketing. You want to do, you know, recording, mixing, mastering, any of that stuff, A&R, like all that. But to be totally honest, just from my experience, I was like you guys once. I was doing TRL and we made it, and it was such a big thing. I always talked about it every interview and all that stuff. And I was in Nashville my senior year for this interview at Universal to do like legal writing to like for permitting and licensings for songs. Yeah, it was, oh my God. But I was like, oh my God, that's how you get in the industry, right? Everybody thinks like, oh, you just need something to get your foot in the door. You just need to get something to get your foot in the door. Well, thank God I didn't get that job, but thank God I didn't get it, because a friend of mine did get it and they said it was the worst thing ever. They were overworked. They were getting paid like under minimum wage, basically, if you counted up how many hours they worked. And it was just sounded miserable. So I got super lucky and had a friend that was already working for the company I work for now, which is called Image Engineering. And we'll get into all that and talk to you guys about those things. But I started doing lighting and lasers and special effects and things like that. Still at the time, I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? I still had this grand dream of like, no, I want to have this like cool job working in the industry. I don't want to be, another tech person. Sometimes you want to just be the rock star. I feel like we all want to be rock stars, right? Yeah, probably most of you. but anyway, so I get hooked up with this job and I'm doing part-time stuff and I'm learning with them, but I'm still like actively looking for other jobs, and wasn't thinking that this was going to be what I wanted to do. But after a little while, I kind of realized that it's almost like this perfect storm, if you will. I'm sure all of you have like other interests other than music. Most of you probably aren't music majors. At least it wasn't when TRL started. It was like kind of basically a non-music major music club. So there's a lot of stuff that I didn't realize that my knowledge of music, whether it was just understanding song structure or understanding beats or understanding, how to, interact with music, on a creative level almost, that's been the most valuable thing that I've had throughout this little journey that I've had. So let me show you where I am now. I've kind of gently brushed over how I got where I am, but I'm gonna just screen share and show you guys some pictures and go through stuff. And I know you want to see like what cool artists I've done and stuff like that. So let me just get that out of the way. So it's been a super busy few years for me. You're all gonna see yourself in a weird loopy thing. Yep. And I'm just gonna show you my Instagram here. Can everybody see that? Yeah. Just give me some nods. Yeah. Okay. Word. Yeah. Self-promotion. You can throw me a follow,
Hey,
whatever.
you follow back?
Yeah, of course. Especially if you're in
Awesome.
TRL. Yeah. No, I love you guys. I'm super happy that you guys are still doing this thing. And like always, I'll say this again later, but always, always, always feel free to reach out to me if you guys have questions or anything like you think I'd be able to give you advice or anything like that. I'm super happy you guys are still doing this. So I just got back from Los Angeles a few weeks ago doing these Fortnite shows. Here is a picture from Anderson .Paak. This was a live show that was streamed inside Fortnite. There are lasers here and there and there and there. All the lighting stuff is done by another guy that I work closely with. That's kind of the overall creative designer. And then there's Mr. Anderson .Paak right there. That was really cool because that was like a live stream. That's like a very 2020 thing. Like it was in Fortnite. So everything was done for the camera. It was all very like focused on what camera saw. It didn't really matter what it looked like to us in the studio, which is kind of like a really different way of thinking. If any of you do like stagehand work or in production, live production or anything like that, COVID has changed a lot. So it feels very different. And here's some more pictures. That's me doing stuff. This is from Dominic Fike. This is the same studio, just like a week earlier. And here's me doing some laser design stuff, kind of mimicking this thing. Yeah. Same thing. That was a Fortnite show, which is pretty cool. I have a world record, had a world record for a hot second for a world's largest laser show. This is a picture of that. So yeah, tons of laser stuff. Here's like a bit from Skrillex. I don't know if you'll get audio or not. Oh, I'm apologizing if that's super fucking loud. So pre-COVID, obviously that was like in December. Pre-COVID, all this fun stuff. Some more pictures. Cage the Elephant. This was a while ago in DC. Yeah, December 18th. Cage the Elephant. So I get really lucky in that, like with lasers and the company that I work for, it's a special effect. Not every show you go to has lasers, and a lot of the time it's like bigger artists that can afford it. So that's why I've gotten like the opportunities to do some of this stuff. That's Chris Brown over there. I know Chris Brown. I know. I see that head shaking. I know Chris Brown. But it was a cool show, you know what I mean? It was a big break for me. That was like one of the biggest tours I got to do all by myself, which was awesome. A lot of these other things, I'm kind of working along like a big team of creatives, which is awesome, but also not as exciting when you do it all yourself. Here's some more stuff. This is stuff from the world record. So this is in Staples Center, the LA Kings. I do a lot of stuff for them. Some pretty laser stuff in there. Anyway, lots of laser bits, more Chris Brown, more stuff. This is all on my Instagram if you guys are ever interested in looking at stuff. If you want to see cool things that are in there, it's in there. I don't want to spend too long on it. But basically what I'm trying to drive home here is like I did comm and I was really worried about what the hell I'm going to do for work. And this company in Maryland, Image Engineering, was doing stage production stuff, and they needed guys to like literally load trucks for a couple days and whatever. And I just did it for money. And I just knew that it was kind of like, okay, it's this place that, needs help and isn't necessarily what I want to do, but it's still in the industry, like in the music industry, and I originally wanted to be like a producer or an audio engineer or something like that. And I kind of like stumbled upon this company and was just doing it as a gig, just a side job and whatnot. And then it developed into kind of like meeting of my two loves, which is like technology and music. And so, it was much more of a dream come true than I initially thought. Like I was saying earlier, when I first got this job and I was just doing kind of like stagehand stuff with them and setting up truss, breaking stuff down. And if you don't know what I mean by any of that, that's totally fine. But, setting up for live events and that kind of thing. And it was really fun, but was just kind of a job at first. And then it kind of erupted into this whole thing. This company kind of was expanding. We do half the NFL, which is fun. You'll see tons of things. This is imageengineering.com. This is the company I work for. And I kind of got into doing the laser stuff and programming and working on the touring side, and with this company that they bought out called Light Vector that builds their own stuff. So this is actually, I don't know if we can click on this. Yeah. This piano that you see here, oops, let me take my thing off of it, was kind of the first big project I ever got to work on. And those are a bunch of little lasers hitting little mirrors and then shooting up out over. This is for Lady Gaga. So this was like a huge, this piano was probably like $3 million to make. And what was crazy, right, is like, if you guys know music production and things like that, I was so valuable. This is really what like drove home the point, is like, the knowledge of that was so valuable, because like to do things like, she's using a MIDI keyboard up there, which it looks like a baby grand piano, but she's using a MIDI keyboard. So like the knowledge of understanding that like, okay, MIDI is just like these signals, and I can control these lasers based on the MIDI notes that she's hitting. And, connecting the dots between stuff like that is huge. There's a lot of careers out there, not just lighting and stage production, but there's other things like marketing too, and even like A&R stuff and promo, where it's like, if your knowledge of music or how it's created or whatever can help you, it can usually create opportunities for you. Not saying that getting a sweet job at a label is something you should say no to, but I'm just saying there are other like career paths and things that you might not have thought of that might be perfect for you, especially if you kind of have mutual interest in music as well as technology. Technology is obviously a huge thing, whether you're a computer science programmer or you just like to fiddle around with electronics and things like that. It's pretty huge. Anyway, these are tons more pictures of this company that I've been working for and a bunch of gigs that we've done. They have really helped me grow because I got with this company as it was expanding, right? And so I got really lucky in that sense that I was in a job that basically created a position for me as it grew. We expanded to have a Vegas office too, which is called Image SFX, which is like does all the touring. So we do like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Post Malone, Guns N' Roses, BTS, all these like big mega names. And the cool part about that too is like, not only like for COVID, right? Like my world stopped. I was in Europe, or January, I was doing a show for Chinese New Year, and I was in Europe for like 3 weeks doing a couple shows. And then March, I was in Disney World doing like a corporate thing. And like 2 days after I got back in March, COVID shut like everything down. So it was like a huge pump the brakes. Obviously, nobody knows when live music is really coming back. We've had like some promising stuff, and like I'm going to do a drive-in thing that's going to become a tour in Nashville like next week. So like there are some things that are coming back, but you know, COVID hit and it was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? Is my job still going to be there? You know, what's going to happen? And I know you guys are going to have to deal with a lot of uncertainty, but it's kind of great in a way because you guys will have the benefit of like all the guys that haven't been able to make it work and had to get out of this industry and had to like change jobs because they got a family to support and they can't wait a year and a half to like get live events or things like that back. Like you guys are going to be the young new people coming on the scene that aren't necessarily bogged down by some of the COVID stuff that's happened and didn't have to deal with it. But anyway, I will say this, it was really lucky that I wasn't just working for the touring company because when COVID did happen and we didn't know where money was coming from, obviously the touring company was just screwed, right? Like there's nothing going out. There's nobody's buying lasers or anything like that. You know what I mean? And we also do pyrotechnics and fireworks and all that stuff. You know, luckily had some corporate things that happened, you know, like a product launch or whatever that was streamed or some BS like that, like cool stuff, but nothing really exciting on our end. You know, I'm sure that doesn't sound exciting to you guys either. So it's cool in a way, but when the NFL and Major League Soccer and other things started to pop up, the non-touring side, Image Engineering here in Baltimore, they do like half the NFL. So even though I wasn't really working that much, they were able to keep me on just because of their spread of stuff. And so that's another thing too, is like something to always keep in mind when you're thinking about a job in music is think about like kind of scalability, you know, the stuff that you might do for a little show that your friend has or whatever, maybe would scale really well for like an artist that goes on small club tours or things like that. And then if you can put yourself out there, you know, you can get on these things. I mean, Instagram and these other things are like super powerful tools to show people what you're doing. If you do anything visual, if you do things, you know, if you make your own music and things like that. So I will say this is a little bit harder. Music is always something that I still do. But it's kind of my direction has shifted a lot from college to now. And I focus a lot more on kind of this production and learning how to be a better person for my team, or a better person for my my company in terms of just like bringing new, fresh ideas rather than like, you know, spending my time recording all my songs and things like that, which kind of a bummer in some way, but at the same time, music should be about kind of a release and should be about you putting yourself out there. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't follow your dreams and try and become an artist, because that would be beautiful. And I hope all of you can become awesome rock stars. But, you know, when looking for a job after this whole either graduation or just internships or whatever, it's good to think about those areas where you might have cross skills. It might be something where, okay, I know about audio. Maybe I can go work as a stagehand at 930 Club when they open back up because they had to lay all their stagehands off. Stuff like that is super close by and super easy to do for you guys. And would be awesome, nudge, nudge, wink, wink to the exec board over there. Maybe, figure out places that do kind of work studies. Maybe you guys can work something out where like you go there and you get to shadow a stagehand for a day or whatever, obviously when stuff comes back. But there are a lot of different types of jobs, and I kind of fell into this lighting, laser, live production kind of mix. But if you're interested in like, more kind of traditional stuff and more corporate stuff like marketing, if you want to work at Live Nation, places like that, that's my girlfriend does stuff like that, and I can show you guys this probably. Cool. So you guys see this amplify her voice thing. So this is something my girlfriend made like a year ago now. And the reason I'm talking about this, not just like plugging another Instagram account, but this is something that she just made. She was passionate about, these statistics of women in music, whether they're like producers or artists or audio engineers or anything like that. And she just kind of made this Instagram that posts, let's see about these better things. It just started out like this. Like, it's literally like just like stats from things, from studies that she read. And it really like blew up. She got like 12,000 followers in a year. And it's literally just from, little like just reposting stuff. Here's a post about how to get ahead in the music industry in college that they did. And she ended up partnering with like Universal Music and like all this big stuff like that, which is super cool. And it's literally all just because of Instagram, right? It's just like people resharing and people, wanting to support a good cause as well. And like, the reason I'm mentioning this for marketing is that's what she wants to do. But this doesn't make her any money. This is just something she does in her free time. And it just like happens to be, a social issue that obviously a lot of people are behind. And it's really like pulled out well for her and gotten her a lot of job interviews and things like that. So like the more kind of honest to what I believe, the more like true you are to yourself and your interests and things like that, like stuff will just kind of come out in this music industry. Because like one thing is super important is that like people know, it's easy to tell when someone's passionate, right? It's easy to tell when someone really cares about what they're doing and is doing it for the right reasons versus when someone's not. And I'm sure that you all as musicians or as people who want to work in the industry or are in this kind of music group, I'm sure you all know people that are like that, where sometimes they're working on a song or whatever, but they're kind of just putting it out there to put out a song. They're not like, there's no heart and soul into it. There's no emotion in the lyrics. There's nothing that's really like captivating you, and it's stale. So that's like, really blew me away when all her stuff started blowing up, because it was just, like I said, like a side project, right? Like this is nothing, you know what I mean? She does music and all this other stuff, but this has nothing to do with her or whatever. It's just about this movement. Yeah, so I got a little off topic there, but really I think like the biggest thing that I wish people would have told me and like I would have thought about before kind of coming in and figuring out a way to get through this industry was just realizing that like the other things that interest me in my life other than just playing music can really help me to like actually have a job in this industry. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure you all know, like, okay, there aren't, a million jobs for studio musicians. There's not a million jobs for producers. There's not a million jobs for it. It's super saturated right now because everybody has a computer and everybody can make music and put it online, which is great. And I'm glad all of you or the ones of you that I know are putting your music up, because I love seeing that. But it's important to realize what strengths that you have other than just your music knowledge, because there are times where, realizing that, oh, hey, this is like a chorus change. Maybe, you're doing something to a song, whether it's a commercial or whether you're making a lighting design or whether you're making a video edit or whether you're doing something. The fact that you like even know little bits about structure of music can go a long way into kind of conveying your creative ideas. It really helps all sorts of things, just understanding like, oh, the 16th note hi-hat, like, oh, maybe that should be, something interesting should go along with that or whatever, that's I'm talking about it in my terms, you know what I mean? That's stuff I think about because of visual design. But even when you go down one of these paths, even when you like kind of go into this, there's a whole industry within the music industry, right? There's like industries within industries. As I've been saying, there's engineering for audio, there's engineering for electrical engineering, there's the marketing, there's promotions, there's literal just like tour management and things like that. And all those jobs have their own almost like industry and their own kind of things that you do and ways that you interact with other people. And then you can kind of grow within those spots as well. And it's still music. Your knowledge of music helps you out a lot and can often put you ahead of people who don't. Because there are people that probably don't go to University of Maryland, but there are people out there that work in this industry and they, they're not musicians. They just went and they did like a tech theater class and they just know some stuff and they know, a little bit about this and that, but they can't necessarily capture the scene, the emotion, the feeling, the synchronizing of things with music and with feeling, which really matters a lot. I don't know, if you're mostly music producers or whether you're musicians yourselves or whether you guys are do a lot of video stuff or whatever. I'm kind of just, shooting in the dark here, but all those little things can really add in to kind of give yourself more skills to kind of bring to the table when you do start looking for jobs and when you start kind of trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. So I've already exhausted myself talking. If anybody has questions, I think now is the time. Yeah. Is that good? Some nods. Yeah. Questions. Okay. I think you can unmute yourselves just one at a time with questions, but if there are any.
Yeah, I have a question. So like you said, you started out just as like setting up for like the shows and stuff. How did you like move up so quickly in the company to like get to the point where you're like running your own show?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So first of all, I started out when I was going to University of Maryland. I had a friend that hooked me up with like a stagehand job at 930 Club, like just working for them directly. And that was kind of like they email you and say like, hey, we got a show, we got a spot, like, can you do it? It's very like no schedule, $12 an hour, like backbreaking kind of sometimes. But that actually got me the job at Image Engineering because I had that little bit of experience. And I was like, hey, if you need somebody to run around and set up stuff, plug stuff in, they're like, oh, hell yeah. And it started out, like gig work, you know what I mean? Like it's not every day. It's just kind of whenever they needed you. But the way I moved up was, I was lucky enough to have a friend that worked for that company already. So, and this is the honest truth, right? I wish I could tell you like I worked super hard and they noticed. I had a friend that was like already doing lighting design stuff and kind of was teaching me along the way as I was doing things. And just like my knowledge of like running cables and understanding like there's a male end and there's a female end and like which way the signal flows and understanding that like things need power to work, just helped me get past the initial like dudes that they just like pick up at Home Depot to like load stuff in and out, you know what I mean? Just like random guys and to do stuff. So that kind of got me the initial leg up. And then after that, it was honestly just practicing, learning how to use the lighting console, which is called Grand MA. If anyone's into lighting or this kind of stuff, production stuff, I really encourage you to hit me up and we can talk all about it. I can give you the lay of the land and all that stuff. It's a lot for me to talk about right now, but basically, yeah, it was just, I knew enough about like MIDI controllers and things like that. And I had messed with, playback stuff, and anyone who's a producer that makes music with your computer, it's very similar. Everything's kind of the same. You know what I mean? It was kind of just like figuring out like, oh, I know how to do this. So can I do this on here? And yeah, you can. So, it was kind of just connecting the dots after that. It was stuff that I knew just from messing around, but it was really just like kind of connecting the dots. And luckily some opportunities worked out. And then I just kind of became the main design person. So good question.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
How important is that degree in terms of like doing what you're doing? Because you can get caught up in your head like, why am I going to college when I know that music is what I want to do and I know how to do it, and you don't need a degree to tell you how to do music kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. So I will say this. I studied comm, and the reason I studied comm is like I genuinely thought it was a cool subject. I did not want a job in comm. I wasn't like doing it. It's not like, you know, I wasn't doing engineering or anything like that because I like wanted a job in engineering or business or anything like that. I genuinely thought, hey, I'm pretty good at reading a room sometimes and making jokes and kind of smoothing out the situation. What is that called? And it was comm. So I didn't necessarily go to school to get a job like that. But I will say the one thing the degree does over people who don't have it is I'm a lot better in meetings with clients than other people are that we have that don't have that degree, just because I'm a little bit more educated when you're talking to, and I'm no disrespect to anybody who doesn't do this, but it kind of helps you have a broader strokes of knowledge for when you're talking to older people or people who are very intelligent that do have a very wide stroke of knowledge and things like that. It's more so just to, you know, yeah, comm is communications. Yeah. More so just to engage and have that like extra kind of thing in your corner as well. You know, a degree never hurts to have, right? You always have that, at least to fall back on. You have a bachelor's degree. And if you're already going to school and paying for it, get it done. Just like get it done, because at the end of the day, that's something that you have that even if music really doesn't work out, you fall flat on your face and you're going to be homeless. Like, you have a degree, you can probably get a job over somebody else somewhere just because you have that kind of widespread of knowledge. Now, on the other hand, if you are going to school and getting a degree in something like engineering or STEM or whatever, that's also extremely helpful because there are all sorts of things that tie into this. You know, image engineering, we have this company, the one I was mentioning, called Light Vector, and they build lasers and stuff. We get electrical engineers in here. We had a guy from University of Maryland for a little while that was doing optical engineering. Like, all sorts of the science and technologies come together, and then, you know, they got to build stuff that ended up going on the Trans-Siberian Orchestra tour. And then they got to go and see that, you know what I mean? And then you see this thing that you helped build and design, and it's like on stage with this group that's huge. You know, like, holy F, you know, this is real. So, you know, it kind of goes both ways, but I would say if you're already in school and you're already at this point, get your degree. It's so worth it just to have that in your corner and to know that, you know, you have, one, a fallback plan, but two, that you have kind of a broad knowledge. And like I was saying earlier, it's that broad knowledge of things that you can bring to the table that will set you apart from the people who just like only know music. You know what I mean? Good question.
Yeah, I have one actually. So, yeah, like how things have changed with COVID and like, you know, your job changed and luckily you weren't just with a touring company, but in general, like, are there positions that you can think of that have been where people can like work remote on music? Because I know, like, honestly, something that's made me a little hesitant is like touring. You know, sometimes sounds a little brutal. So
yeah, well,
yeah, I was just wondering.
I'll say this, like, COVID has obviously changed shows, right? Like right now, you can't really do a house show tour and you can't really do an arena tour, right? It's kind of this whole top to bottom kind of shut down. So obviously, like, anything that's stream worthy and doing streaming, like, is all that you're going to have in a way. But that's a little bit different than kind of the jobs and being able to work remotely. So obviously touring's screwed, but working remotely is actually 10 times better than it was before. And thank God this is happening now, because there's stuff that you can do. Like, even just in my job, right? Like, I can design a set and put it together. And then they have these new pieces of technology where I can like actually be on a network with somebody on the other side of the country, and we can send files back real time. And that works too if you're working on tracks as well. You know what I mean? It's you can do that, and you can obviously use Gmail and Dropbox and all that stuff as well, which is a more crude version of what I'm talking about. But I would just say that COVID in general has made the stuff that connects, that, you know, all the little extra advancements way more apparent that we have. But I'm also going to say that I think, you know, people are going to be super eager to go back out and to go see shows and to go to, you know, much more likely to go out and go to that house show on a Friday night than, you know, go to the bar, just because it's live music, and, you know, we haven't had that for a long time. I will say this though, Mike, I know, you know, I don't know if you're talking about touring seems sketchy from just an artist point of view or whether it's from a production point of view, but from an artist point of view, like, even if you're doing a house show tour, like, it's fucking awesome. Like, go do that. All of you, I encourage you, like, if you have the time before you graduate. I mean, one of the awesome times was the Mild Animals, which was another group of people that helped start TRL. Yeah, you guys, I see some heads shaking, and you know who I'm talking about. So this is this band that was basically all the TRL exec board minus myself, and we all graduated at the same time. So like the day after we had graduation, we got on the road, packed up in 2 cars, and did a little like East Coast stint, house shows, small little grimy venues, you know, stuff like that. And it was fucking awesome. Like, you know, staying in a motel or crashing on somebody's couch, you know, in whatever city. I mean, if you have the chance to do that, it's awesome, especially before you have life responsibilities, before you get a full-time job, and before you have to like think about where your career is going. For, you know, if you have that opportunity, I would take it. I know COVID kind of screws that, especially if you have graduation coming up or, you know, summer break, but I still think that those shows are kind of going to be more people like us will go to them than just like wait for the big arena tours to come around to come back. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. And yeah, I was also talking about like just from like working in the industry standpoint, like just going out on tours, you know, kind of a lot, just like mentally and physically. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing to remember is a tour bus sleeps 12 people. So if you're going out on as the crew, like you got to be ready for that. But that's, you know, right now because of COVID, it's not happening, and the things that are happening are mostly live streamed events, right? So it's like you're not, you know, you're staying in a hotel, you're staying in one place. It's kind of all coming from one location. So right now it's not that bad, but yeah, like as on the road and having to like wake up at 8 a.m., load in a show, and then load back out at 11 p.m. or midnight is kind of brutal for a couple months on end, living in a bus. But also, you're a rock star, you know, so like, what does it matter? You know, you're getting to do these cool things, and you're young, you can kind of burn yourself out a little bit. But that's, you know, that's also kind of just, that's music though, right? Like, isn't that kind of our thing, is like you grind now, you got to focus right now, because in America, like we're all obsessed with being young and good looking, and, you know, your 20s is your best bet at that, guys. So, yeah. So, you know, I would say that even though this is kind of like a slow down time, I would just say keep grinding and trying to figure out ways that you can end up going on tour and doing those fun things, whatever, when this comes back.
How did you guys book the tour you guys went with the band that started the Terrapin record label? I was wondering how you guys like actually booked it. How you guys shows?
That's literally, so like they were a band that had music on Spotify and stuff like that, and that's literally, you know, and this is something too that you guys should always keep in mind. People like answer their emails. You can email venues and just say like, hey, like we're, you know, X and X a band or X and X a group, and we're coming through town, and we're just curious if you had any events happening and had a spot open. You know, that's like as basic as that. You know, there are people that like get paid to put people on lineups. There are groups that fall out. You know, there are sometimes places that would rather book an out-of-state act than an in-state act, just because they've seen the in-state act a bunch of times. So that was literally just like hitting people up on emails and putting it together, and then you know, kind of saying, you know, you have to say no sometimes. I'll say this because sometimes, you know, your hotel won't work out, or your you know, you don't have a friend to stay with or whatever, and you're gonna end up losing money going there. So it also depends like on your financial situation going into it. You know, prepare to lose money on your first tour, but at the same time, it's fun to do and fun to put together. And I, you know, it was just a little East Coast thing, you know, so you don't need to start big. It doesn't need to be like going all the way up and all the way back. You know what I mean? Having a show every city. I mean, good luck if you can, hell yeah. But, you know, just doing a couple states over and try and get 3 or 4 gigs in, then hell yeah.
Nick, I think it'd be cool just kind of talking about the DIY scene a little bit more and how that kind of helped you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you were really involved here. Even like this club was kind of DIY at the beginning. If you just want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So the one thing that's amazing about DIY gigs is that if you fuck up, no one cares, right? And not no one cares, but it's not that big a deal, right? Because if you fuck up on an actual like show, you suck. And that goes for like audio, that goes for lighting, whatever it might be. DIY most of the time doesn't have lighting at all. But even just doing audio engineering in that way, it was kind of true to that. But you know, the biggest thing I think that helped me that came from this DIY scene, the Void and the Mild Manor and that one place off of Austin or whatever. Yeah, the weird hippie house, hippie sanctuary, whatever the hell it was called. Place was cool though. I would say that like the biggest thing that kind of helped me with was networking to get the club started, one, but also networking to meet more people that had ideas and were doing things like I wanted to do. And I also was trying to do audio engineering, right? Like, so at that time it was like, these people are putting on gigs. Someone's got to do their audio. Why not me? It also kind of helps when, you know, UMD's DIY scene and just our like contemporary music scene is like not very present in terms of stuff on campus, right? It's like, you got to be part of the radio station, part of TRL, or like just going to the Void and hanging out there a lot. And that's kind of that was like the whole squad. That was like everybody, right? That was it. Now I hope that gets better, but I'm sure it hasn't recently, or changed at all. But you know, the knowing people and having that connections and that network is like super important, because not only do you develop trust with people that's like, okay, like I know Nick does audio or knows how to do that, like let me put him on this gig tonight, like, and give him a couple dollars or whatever. It's always good to have people that can utilize your skills, but also like good to have people that, you know, you can work with and collaborate with. And like TRL wouldn't have happened without a strong DIY scene and kind of pulling everybody together and saying like, hey, we can get money from SGA to do stuff, to fund projects and things like that if we can make a school club. I mean, like I was saying earlier, TRL was originally, it wasn't called TRL, but it was just going to be like an actual off-campus like label. Like Mike and I were trying to just make it so we had something to do with our lives after college. But you know, once we realized that we could just apply and get funding from SGA and like do stuff and create a club about it, and it can be more than just, you know, Mike and I putting something together, you know, we wouldn't have been able to do it without the DIY scene. No one would have taken us seriously either. It's like, hey, we can put on a show like Milk Boy and stuff. We had those shows and it was like, we can put on a show and like people will show up. It's not going to be like 6 people, you know, because the scene, and that's because you make connections. It's because you do stuff for other people. That's because you all have their back. And you know, we have a scene, we have a group. It's important to involve yourself. And if you're not, and you're a little shy or whatever, and you know, you don't know anybody, you don't know how to put yourself out there, hopefully, you know, people in this club will help you meet other people that way. But also, most of the time, and I'm sure you guys all agree, is, you know, we all just want to help each other, right? And if you hear somebody's wanting to get into this, that, or, you know, just interested about this, that, or just wants to be part of the scene, 9 times out of 9, you know, the person will be, oh yeah, of course, like whatever, here's, you know, what do you need, and yada yada yada, because, you know, music is a very like community oriented thing, right? I think it's weird right now because of COVID, but music is very much so about like bringing people together, making us all feel the same thing, having a good time, having a party. So, you know, I think the biggest thing was the DIY community helped a lot. And that obviously evolved into like putting me in positions where I could use the skills that I wanted to hone to get me a job. But without that, you know, without TRL, without all this stuff, who knows? You know, I have no idea what would have happened. Yeah, you know, hopefully you guys can start putting on shows again too. You know, the biggest thing was like TRL was supposed to be the DIY scenes club. You know what I mean? It was going to be like where everybody can come together, and that's not just the radio station. You know, it's about making your own music and kind of carving your own way and building your own path,
So all that being said, and with COVID making a lot of this a lot more difficult, how would, like, in the future, if something like this were to happen again, what are some of the things that you'd be thinking about for like contingency plans? Like, okay, then we gotta start doing this, and this to like sustain ourselves.
Yeah. Let's just think like COVID doesn't go away, right? Or like it surges back again or whatever. Just probably easier to visualize. But for what I do, there's a lot of things that I can do that are digital. You know what I mean? I learned how to use software to like build stages, do like whole designs, where the lights all go, where the video, all that stuff, and make cool designs that way. Sometimes just for fun. Sometimes it's for a paying thing. And I think, that's what I was saying too. There are like other skills that kind of interweave and interlace with music knowledge, whether that's production or putting together songs or, marketing or whatever. There are these other, everything has software that does something now, right? There's an app for that, so I would say the biggest thing is kind of knowing what your resources are. And that's really important in any situation, but knowing like as much about your resources as you can, and especially the ones that make it easier for you to work with lots of people and in different places. Without some of that stuff, I mean, think about like if we didn't have Zoom, right? Like what would work meetings? What would anything be like? I have no idea. Someone just mentioned, Creative Cloud. Like that's a great, huge suite like of things that, it's not just making logos for bands. You know what I mean? It's not just making album covers or marketing materials or things like that. It is also, there's stuff you can do animation wise with Adobe or with Unreal Engine and things like that. And that's something like there are unique ways that people are putting together these things to give themselves one leg up. You know what I mean? So like animation, right? So way out of the way, right? Computer animation, that has nothing to do with music, is your initial thought. How cool would it be if you could make a whole computer animated music video for yourself or for other people? How cool would it be if you could put on a concert that was streaming your music and you had everything playing and was all 3D animated world, right? And so you could stream that and it was just be like a cool experience. So, something that I'm working on right now is like I did those Fortnite shows and I do a lot of stuff with augmented and extended reality. And a lot of that is like building what I do into a real-time video game engine. It's called Unreal Engine. It's free. There's also tons of like free software. Free software is like the newest best thing, right? Like there are a few things that in music are free, like Reaper and whatever. But, Unreal Engine is huge. They use that on The Mandalorian. They use that on all sorts of XR and AR things, as well as video games. And that's free. You can download that. You can start messing with it. It's super easy and you can make cool little things. And it's a creative outlet, right? It's a cool creative outlet. So, combining your interest, whatever it may be, with these technologies, these softwares out there, will put you in a better spot, not only for if COVID happens again, but for work as well. You mess around and you make 100,000 album covers for yourself. Okay, cool. But, now I have 1,000 pieces of sampling material to show someone if they want to know what kind of stuff I work on, right? And so like you can do stuff for yourself, for your music, for your brand or whatever that you want to call it. You can do stuff that will kind of put you in your own kind of corner. But the one thing I will say with that is, stay true to who you are and what you're interested in, because it will always show, right? If you're not into computer animation, you think that stuff is lame and stupid and you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But if you're into, graphic design or figuring out marketing things or, even if you're just into audio engineering and you want to figure out a better way to work with clients, if it's, remote like this, know what software and, stuff is available to you. It's also really important to know what's free, right? Because no one's going to want to pay to use a service that maybe only you use. It's important to use the free stuff and know how to use it as well. So I would say, just like, figure out something that you might want to do for yourself and learn a new program, right? Like learn Adobe Premiere if you want to do video editing, learn Illustrator if you want to make graphics or logos or things like that. You know what I mean? It's really important to not only have that just music skill. You know, you're all creative because you can make music or because you want to work in this industry. I know you're all creative. So there are ways to use that creativity with different facets of it. And you can use it to benefit yourself, or you can just use it to learn and do it kind of more objective. But yeah. So the question is, what advice do you have regarding brand building for creatives beyond social media? Okay, so number one thing is have a website. I don't know, you know, if any of you are computer people and know how to do HTML, then amazing, and you will make money for the rest of your life because you can always charge your musician friends to build their website, or any of your friends really. But I think having a website, and even if it's just like HostGator or something like that, you know what I mean, just to get your own domain name and it's super easy to use, is important because you can create your portfolio and put your stuff up in your own way. It's not just the Instagram format. I'm saying this as I show you my Instagram, right? So that being said, like, I know that my shortfall is that I don't have a website that's nice to put together. But you know, for music, especially if you're an artist, or if you don't even necessarily define yourself as just a musician, if you're like, I'm just a creative person, having your own website is super helpful because it shows a lot more of what your creativity is. It shows that you're able to figure out better ways to market yourself too. You know what I mean? You're not going to make a website that makes you look dumb or that you think looks dumb. You know what I mean? You're going to put your album artwork in there. You're going to do cool stuff with it, and make it your own and kind of really showcase, you know, this is who I am and this is, you know, what I'm trying to convey. So I think the website is the best thing outside of social media. But within social media, I would say the best thing is like partner with these people or these organizations that have huge numbers of followers too. Reposts, retweets, anything like that is huge for just like getting your message out there. I know that's kind of a little bit more blanket and bleak of a thing because it's like, okay, well, who or what? There are tons of pages that are like, you know, ones to watch and things like that of like upcoming artists that like will spotlight them. You can send them music and they might, you know, do a little spotlight post on you or share you on their story or whatever. So like those little bits doesn't seem like a lot, but they all add up. And the more you get your name out there on social media is important too, you know? And something that, you know, my girlfriend works in social media. So something that she always says is, obviously you never post more than one a day. But the other thing is post every day, you know, make sure like if the biggest thing is you want to make sure people think you're relevant, right? And this goes for musicians, right? People want to remember you. You want people to think you're relevant. The best story I heard about this, for example, was Dominic Fike. I did a show with him in the top of September and I was talking to him and he was telling me that 3 nights, I don't know if you guys know that, 3 nights at the hotel. Yeah. My voice is killing me, but anyway, that song, right, was released while he was in jail. Like this man had his family life was all messed up, whatever, and he was on, you know, wrong place, wrong time, and ended up in jail. And he had this whole EP recorded, but it wasn't finished. And he was on the phone with his buddy that's outside of jail and was like, hey man, can you just release this EP? Because I don't want people to forget about me. I don't want people to forget who I am. Right. And that's really important. That's where like the posting it once a day comes in there. Even if you feel like you're annoying people, it's important because you're in their brain. Right. Now to finish the Dominic Fike story, obviously that goes up there and on SoundCloud in like a matter of weeks, you know, it's at like 1 million plays. And then 2 weeks later, it's at like 30 million or something ridiculous. Right. Universal Records, Atlantic Records, Sony are all flying into Florida to meet Dominic Fike in jail to give him a record deal at like 20 years old. So, and, you know, obviously he signs it and get huge and, you know, and the rest is history. But, you know, that story just kind of proves the point of keep yourself relevant in people's minds. You know what I mean? You want people to think of you as an artist, as a creative. It's important to put those things out there. Even if it's just like, oh, I'm working on a beat and it's half finished, you post some of it to your story, just like, this is what I'm working on. People love to share and to hear and like to hear your half finished ideas sometimes too, just because it's something, right? It's something and it feels like it's special too. At least I know that it would be cool. You know, if someone was like, hey man, here's this thing I'm working on. Here's like a little snippet of it. What do you think? You know, right? You do that with your friends. So it's like, it's kind of like that in a way, you know, just keeping yourself relevant, making sure that you post. And then I think the website is the best non-social media thing to have, because you can really, really kind of show anything you want in any way you want and in any format you want, you know. So look at some other people's website, look at your favorite artist website, go on different companies' websites to get ideas for it. But something like HostGator is the best one that I know of. It's pretty cheap, and you can do so much with customizing what your web page looks like. I think it's worth it. All right, Alejandro, I think you had a question, or maybe not.
What was my question? Oh, it was about AI. How do you see like AI and like augmented reality like being integrated into live performances like the next like year or two? Because I want to get involved with like taking electronic music, but then like taking it to the next level, like incorporating like AI into it.
Sure.
Something that's like not like from the person, so that way it's like even like grander in the performance, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So AR and XR is like the tip of technology right now. That's like the top of the top, the coolest effing effect that you can get, right? Camera knowledge is huge. So for a lot of the extended reality stuff, it is a camera that's obviously facing the person, but then it's another 3 cameras on the side of that camera that are pointed at the wall, the ceiling, the floor, and stuff like that. And based on where the camera is in the room, the stuff on the LED walls behind them will shift perspective. So it always looks like you're staring right down the middle almost. So, you know, no matter which way you look, it looks like, if you're viewing through the camera, but if you look through the camera, it looks like you're tracking everywhere you go. So like in real time, like it's there, you know what I mean? We have that. And that's like what the Mandalorian does. That's what they do for the like AVMAs and things like that have all been happening. Like that's the big new thing. There are some really cool applications of like augmented reality, which is kind of adding non-existent things into a real show. So like,
like that.
Yeah. There's a really cool thing League of Legends just did. I know it's on League of Legends. League of Legends just did a world premiere release thing, which was actually super, super dope. That did an XR AR kind of combo thing. And I can put that in the chat. And it's a little bit long of a video, but anyway, so what that is, you know, again, Unreal Engine, it's free. That's literally what everyone uses. Hopefully your computer can handle it, but like, that's what that is. And it's just, again, camera and then the software running it.
But is that for streaming shows or for like in-person shows? Because that sounds like it's for streaming, because I've seen those digital shows where like stages beating around the DJ and shit. Like,
yeah, so like some of it is like you can only see some of it through the camera, right? So like that's kind of the gag, is like you're seeing it through camera. But I think touring and the way concerts are happening are going to change dramatically, in the sense that you can pay tickets and go to the show, but for a much cheaper price, or maybe the price of one ticket, you get access virtually to the whole tour. And I think that is going to be like a big ticket thing. And so like that kind of stuff, to have the extra content in it and things like that, are crazy.
Yeah, because like I know Billie Eilish, Post Malone, and Panic at the Disco, they all did that with this one company. I forget what it's called. But.
Yeah. The other thing too to remember with that is like, you know, that's kind of still in a young creative phase. So, you know, if you guys get into that now, like that'll be huge, because it's going to change and kind of evolve from where it is now. But, you know, keep track of that and kind of work with it. But I really recommend Unreal Engine because it's free, and that's literally what tons of people use. But I think that, you know, shows in general will switch to this like half virtual, half non-virtual kind of experience. And that's just where I see it going. So yeah, I totally think that, you know, doing AR, XR animation stuff is going to be like the next level. An artist, I was just going to say, an artist that like, I don't know if you already follow them, but, and maybe this is for everybody, if you're interested in like next level visual production, like crazy, let's like, what the hell is going on? Eric Prydz, Prydz, is an EDM artist, but like that is the best visual production in the world. That combines like all sorts of trickery of holographic projections, AR experiences, and it's just absolutely insane. And I think that's like top notch for like best examples of like, you know, top tier in the world and what you'll see.
Roof mapping?
Huh?
Have you seen roof mapping at like different, like a festival, for example, that happens at some festivals? They do roof mapping on like the top of the tent. That's like kind of like, right? Where, like,
yeah, well, yeah, it's a little bit more involved than that, but yeah, kind of the same thing. Again, it's for Eric Prides, they do a whole bunch of extra effects that like, you know, silk screens in front of them and like hologram stuff and all that jazz. But
have you worked in a venue that has like the venue almost like comes to life, where like, let's say like the ground of like the venue, like there's like lights in like the floor for the audience, or like lights in the sides, or like lights in the back, like do you know about like any like companies or like people that are trying to explore like the site of the concert and like expanding that to like take it to the next level? Does that make sense?
The hard part you have to remember is, depending on the site, like you have to make it so any show can come in there. Okay. Right. You have to make it like, you can't make it so complex that it's like a nightmare. I mean, there are clubs like in DC, or not DC, I'm sorry. Vegas. I don't know why I said DC. Vegas, that do crazy stuff like that, you know, and they have the circle truss and it's all moving with video mapping and like crazy stuff. And that's big in Europe too. But, you know, you have to, if you're thinking about it from like a club standpoint, or like you're thinking about like designing or building something like that, you know, you have to make it easy enough that, you know, when a tour comes in there or whatever, that one, it's not necessarily like have to use that particular thing that you have, you know, whether it's lights in the floors or whatever. Or if they do that, it's easy for them to integrate, right? Because you don't want to have this thing that like no one wants to use because it's a pain in the ass, right? So yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I would like go to Vegas, check out some of the clubs there, because a lot of that stuff is wild. Don't bring too much money. Yeah. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? Going once. Going twice. Okay, I'm sold. All right. Yeah, this was fun. Super happy that you guys are all still around. I love to hear from all of you. So just feel free to hit me up, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. If you guys ever want to talk about career advice or whatever, happy to help. You know, I'm happy that you guys are all still around and keeping TRL kicking.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, cheers. Cheers. All right, y'all.
All right.
Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick.
See ya.